I never imagined that a single night could shatter everything I'd built, but that's exactly what happened when Emma first heard those voices beneath her feet. In the weeks leading up to that moment, life had seemed almost perfect. She and Michael, her husband of 3 years and partners for nearly a decade, had grown into a seamless partnership, one built on shared routines, whispered jokes, and the kind of easy comfort many only dream about. Their brownstone in Brooklyn felt like a sanctuary, decorated with Emma's paintings and the photographs Michael captured on their travels. One morning, Emma awoke feeling unusually calm. She went through her ritual: gentle stretches, a cup of coffee, a quick check of her inbox. Michael had already left for work, leaving a note on the kitchen counter that read simply, "Love you." She smiled at his familiar handwriting and settled at her desk to finish a video script she'd been refining. Later, as Emma packed her bag for a freelance assignment, she noticed Michael's phone lying face-up on the study desk. The screen glowed with a message preview: "Can't wait to see you later, from Lily B." A chill slid down her spine. Lily, her younger sister, had recently joined Michael's design firm, eager to prove herself. Emma closed the door quietly without disturbing anything, uncertainty knotting in her chest. That evening, Emma returned home expecting the usual: Michael's warm hug, a casual discussion of their days, perhaps a shared cup of tea. Instead, the house was silent. She flicked on a lamp in the study and found Michael's laptop left open, its webcam icon illuminated. 2 coffee mugs sat on the desk, one hers, one the pastel cup Lily adored. Unease twisted her stomach, but she forced herself not to panic. She retreated to her bedroom and retrieved a small digital recorder she kept for interviews. Sliding it into her coat pocket, she decided she needed proof before drawing any conclusions. She placed the recorder on a shelf in the living room and lived the next hours with an ache she could barely name. When she finally pressed play on the recorder in the quiet of their empty home, she heard only faint ambient sounds at first: distant traffic, the hum of the refrigerator. Then she caught the unmistakable click of high heels on hardwood, followed by a low, hesitant whisper: "Are you sure this is okay?" A familiar voice, Lily's. Michael's answer came in hushed tones: "Nobody has to know. It's just between us." Their laughter was soft, secretive. And somewhere beneath it all, the crackle of the fire she'd lit for their anniversary ritual. Emma froze, tears stinging her eyes. The betrayal by a coworker would have stung, but by her own sister? Her heart pounded as she realized the simple act of deleting the recording wouldn't erase what had happened. Later, through a blur of practiced calm, Emma told Michael she had prepared a special dinner. She texted Lily an invitation as well, masking her true intent with cheerful words about celebrating family and art. They would both arrive under the congenial pretense that nothing was amiss. When Michael stepped through the door, he offered her a hurried apology for being late, brushing a lock of hair from his forehead. Lily followed, moving with a lightness that betrayed nothing. Emma greeted them both with a steady smile and led them into the dining room, candles flickering on the table. She wore the dress Michael had given her, the one he'd chosen on a trip months before. Its fabric brushed against her skin like a memory of better times. She guided them to their seats, noting the way Michael's hand trembled as he poured wine, the way Lily's gaze flicked toward the recorder magnetized beneath the table. Over plates of her favorite dishes, risotto studded with mushrooms and a simple arugula salad, Emma allowed small talk to flow. She asked about Michael's latest project, teased Lily about her upcoming gallery show, all while her pulse echoed in her ears. Then, in a voice clear enough for both to hear, she said, "There's something I'd like you to see." With deliberate calm, she activated the hidden speaker. Their whispered conversation played out once more in that hush broken only by soft gasps. Faces drained of color. Tears sprang into Michael's eyes. Lily's hand flew to her mouth. The room stilled, the other diners' murmurs fading into the background as the truth unfolded in audible confession. When the recording ended, Emma rose from her seat. "Thank you for coming," she said, folding her napkin and placing it beside her plate. "I think you understand why you can't stay." She offered them a final, measured glance before turning away. Outside, The night air felt crisp against her skin. Emma walked toward her front door alone, her steps light despite the heaviness in her chest. The betrayal had been excruciating, an opening in her life she never asked for, but in that moment, she also felt the first stirrings of a freedom she hadn't known she needed. The morning after Emma's ultimatum, the brownstone felt unnervingly quiet. She moved through her routine on autopilot, making coffee, feeding Jasper, scrolling through email, while her mind replayed the previous night's confrontation. Michael's hollow apologies and Lily's anguished look hovered at the edge of her thoughts. Although she had demanded they leave, Emma realized she hadn't given herself any real time to process the betrayal. She poured espresso into her favorite chipped mug and sat at the kitchen table, staring out at the gray sky. The text message she'd sent Michael, "Meet me at the office tomorrow, 9 a.m., sat unread in her outbox. She needed to finalize divorce paperwork in person, face to face. She felt a tight knot in her stomach, but also a strange clarity. She would no longer allow others to decide her fate. At 9 the next morning, Emma arrived at the small family law firm Michael and she had once consulted together. She checked in with the receptionist, who gave her a sympathetic nod, then took a seat in the waiting area. When the attorney called her, Emma followed him into a sunlit office lined with legal books. She handed over the flash drive containing the recording. The lawyer listened in silence, brows furrowing at Michael's voice. When the playback ended, he cleared his throat. "This is more than sufficient evidence of infidelity," he said. "Undefended grounds. We can file today if you wish." Emma nodded. "I want to move quickly," she replied. "Please prepare the divorce petition. I want mutual waiver of alimony, full custody of Jasper, and an equitable division of our assets." "Understood." The attorney made notes. "Do you know if Michael intends to contest?" "I don't care," Emma said quietly. "I just need it done." By midday, Emma had signed the petition and paid the filing fee. The clerk stamped her documents and gave her copies, including the summons to be personally served to Michael. As she stepped out onto the sidewalk, a gust of wind carried the scent of rain. She tucked the papers into her bag and inhaled deeply. It was over in the sense that it had to be. Now came the difficult part, rebuilding her life. That afternoon, Emma called Lily. She left a brief voicemail. "I have filed for divorce. Please retrieve your belongings from the apartment by Friday. We will sort joint property later. I hope you find the peace you need." She hesitated before hanging up, wondering if she had been too harsh. But her resolve held firm. Lily needed to learn that actions have consequences. Emma spent the rest of the week diving into her work. She completed the video script her editor had requested, narrated a short documentary segment on urban loneliness, and accepted a guest lecture spot at a local writer's workshop. Immersing herself in deadlines and public speaking gave her focus beyond personal turmoil. Each time she felt grief or anger creeping in, she channeled it into creativity, drafting a tense monologue about trust, composing blog posts on recovery after betrayal, sketching watercolor portraits of abandoned buildings. On Thursday morning, as she prepared for a midday train ride to the writers' event, her phone pinged with a message from Alex. "Hey Emma, I know this might be a lot to ask, but would you like some company at the workshop? I've been working on new photo prints and thought I could share them afterwards." Emma's thumb hovered over the reply button. She hesitated, then typed, "I'd like that. See you there at 1. In the train station's bustling concourse, Emma felt a flutter of nerves as she spotted Alex waiting beside the platform's information board. He waved when he saw her, carrying a slim portfolio case. His smile was genuine, devoid of tension. Emma realized how much she craved a friendly presence, someone who knew nothing of her family drama and could simply listen. The workshop was held in a converted loft with high ceilings and exposed beams. Emma spoke to a small group about narrative pacing and emotional stakes, her voice steady as she referenced examples from literature and film. When the session ended, the participants applauded. Emma felt exhilarated by the energy in the room. She scanned the crowd and found Alex leaning against a pillar, his camera strap dangling. He approached with 2 takeaway coffees. "You were amazing up there," he said, handing her a latte. "Your story segments felt so vivid." especially the part about the betrayed wife finding strength. Emma nodded, appreciating his tact. Thank you. I've had first-hand experience with that theme. Alex's expression softened. If you ever want to collaborate, combine your narrative with my photos, let me know. She smiled, feeling a spark of possibility. I'd like that. Over the following days, Emma and Alex met occasionally for coffee or to review her drafts. Alex showed her photographs of quiet corners in the city, an empty subway car at dawn, a single swing moving in a deserted playground, soft sunlight on peeling paint. Emma felt inspired by his eye for detail, and his presence reminded her that beauty could exist alongside pain. Meanwhile, Emma's messages to Lily went unanswered, and she learned via the property manager that Lily had cleared her things from the second bedroom the previous day. Emma felt a pang of loneliness when she saw the empty space, an echo of her own departure from shared trust. Yet it also represented a clean slate. She repainted the room in pale dove gray and planned to transform it into her new writing studio. One evening, as Emma unpacked art supplies in the renovated room, her phone buzzed with a tweet notification. It was from a popular YouTube channel specializing in true crime storytelling. They had featured a snippet of her narration work as an example of compelling voiceover. The tweet praised her raw, authentic delivery and linked to her personal website. Emma reread the message, chest tightening with pride. Her pain was fueling something meaningful beyond herself. She replied with a brief thanks and shared the channel's tweet to her followers. In that moment, Emma realized her story, though born from intimate betrayal, could resonate with thousands. She felt a surge of purpose. This new chapter of her life was not defined by the lies she had uncovered, but by the work she would create from them. That night, Emma sat at her refurbished desk, the soft glow of a desk lamp illuminating her laptop keyboard. She opened a fresh document titled Rebirth and began to type. Her fingers moved confidently, translating her journey, the shock, the heartbreak, the resolve into prose that would become the backbone of her next video project. She paused, closed her eyes, and listened to the distant hum of the city. For the first time since her life had been appended, Emma felt powerful, no longer a victim, but the author of her own story. Emma pressed her fingertips against the cool glass of the window, watching the city lights pulse below as if each one were a heartbeat she could almost feel. The refurbished studio behind her held the scent of fresh paint and stationery, a promise of stories yet to be told. She leaned back in her new ergonomic chair, opened her laptop, and reread the first lines of Rebirth. Every word felt both raw and necessary, a testament to how far she had come. Over the next week, Emma immersed herself in the project. She divided her narrative into chapters: discovery, confrontation, separation, reconstruction, and began drafting scripts for each. She recorded voiceover clips every evening, refining her tone until it sounded authoritative yet vulnerable, the kind of storytelling that made viewers lean in. Her phone buzzed regularly with notifications, followers subscribing to her channel to witness her journey, messages of gratitude from strangers who felt seen. One afternoon, Emma received an unexpected email. A small production company was interested in licensing her story for a short-form documentary. They wanted her to appear on camera, to narrate and reflect on the experience she had lived through. She stared at the message, heart pounding. The idea of exposing herself so publicly felt terrifying and exhilarating. After a night of deliberation, she replied, agreeing to discuss terms. The following morning, she met David, the producer, in a quiet coffee shop not far from her apartment. He was earnest and respectful, listening attentively as Emma outlined her vision. He spoke of weaving archival footage, animated sequences, and her voiceover into a cohesive 5-minute film that would premiere on their online platform. Emma asked questions about budget, creative control, release schedule. When David assured her she would retain final edit approval, she nodded and shook his hand. It was a collaboration built on trust, one she was ready to embrace. Meanwhile, Lily's absence continued to weigh on Emma. Although she had granted her sister space, Emma found herself wondering how Lily was coping. Could Lily feel the same regret, the same longing for reconciliation? One rainy evening, as Emma reviewed footage in her studio, she noticed a chair pulled out from her desk. Someone had been there. Alongside, a folded letter lay on the corner of her drafting table. Emma, I understand if you never speak to me again. I only hope you know I am truly sorry, and I've been working to become someone worthy of your forgiveness. If you ever feel ready, I would be grateful for a chance to meet. Love always. Lily. Emma's breath caught. She ran her thumb along the neat handwriting and felt a swirl of conflicting emotions: anger, tenderness, residual hurt. She placed the note in a small tray beside her desk and closed her eyes. For the first time in months, she considered replying. That weekend, she called Lily. The phone rang twice before Lily's voice, thin and cautious, answered. Emma listened as Lily apologized again, more sincerely than ever before. Lily spoke of therapy sessions she had begun, of the guilt that haunted her, and of the pottery pieces she had started making to express her regret. Emma felt a lump form in her throat. Hearing Lily's voice, plain and broken, reminded her of shared childhood memories, the afternoons spent painting together, the secret hideouts in their grandmother's garden. Before the call ended, Emma agreed to meet Lily at a small park near the river at sunset. They chose a public place for safety, both emotional and literal. Emma hung up feeling a tentative warmth spread through her chest. On Sunday, Emma arrived early, dressed in a simple knit sweater and jeans. She watched the water flow by and felt the tension in her shoulders gradually ease. When Lily appeared, clutching a small wooden box, Emma noticed how much her sister had changed. Her posture was more humble, her eyes softer. Lily sat down beside her and opened the box to reveal a miniature clay sculpture of two figures standing side by side, a wife and sister, hands nearly touching, but not quite. I made this, Lily whispered. I wanted to show that I still believe in us, even if I don't know how to build back what I broke. Emma studied the tiny sculpture. Its imperfections were obvious, one limb slightly too long, a small crack at the base. Yet the intention behind it moved her. She traced the edge of the box and said quietly, "Thank you. It means more than you know." They sat in silence as dusk painted the sky in muted purples and oranges. Emma felt tears blurring her vision, but this time they weren't solely for pain, they were for the fragile hope of forgiveness. Lily reached out and gently placed her hand over Emma's. The contact sent a ripple through both of them, a reminder of bonds that weather storms. That week, Emma found herself reflecting on the nature of her journey. She completed the final script for her documentary and sent it to David for review. At home, she rearranged her schedule to include weekly therapy sessions of her own, a commitment to healing that went beyond work. She spent evenings practicing voice exercises, experimenting with tone and emphasis, determined to deliver her story with authenticity. On Friday night, she stood in front of her bedroom mirror, dressed in a simple black dress for the film shoot the next morning. She reviewed her lines, practiced her breathing, and looked herself in the eye. The woman staring back was stronger, tempered by betrayal, but not defined by it. She took a deep breath and whispered to her reflection, "This is my truth." When she arrived at the studio early the next day, the camera crew greeted her warmly. They spent hours filming Emma seated against a neutral backdrop, intercut with shots of her revisiting the brownstone, walking the streets where she once felt trapped. The final scene captured Emma releasing a single white balloon by the riverbank, symbolizing her letting go of the past. A month later, the documentary premiered online. Within hours, comments poured in, viewers commending her honesty, sharing their own stories of heartbreak and recovery. Emma read each message, sometimes responding with a brief, "Thank you for sharing." She realized her narrative had become more than a personal catharsis. It had evolved into a beacon for others navigating betrayal. That night, as she prepared part 4 of her written story, focusing on rebuilding trust and forging new connections, Emma felt a quiet confidence settle over her. The path forward was still uncertain, but she had reclaimed her voice, her purpose, and her sense of self. Each chapter she wrote, each scene she filmed, reaffirmed that she was no longer bound by the lies of others, but liberated by her own resilience. Emma woke early, her mind already humming with the next chapter of her story. The glow of dawn filtered through gauzy curtains as she stretched and reached for her notebook, where she had sketched scenes for Part 4, Rebuilding Trust. This segment would weave together her evolving relationships with Alex, with Lily, and ultimately with herself, while exploring how to step into a life defined by honesty rather than fear. She began by drafting a scene in which she and Alex take a weekend trip beyond the city limits. They rented a small cottage by the Hudson River, trading glass skyscrapers for open water and rustling trees. Here, Emma imagined Michael's absence would feel less like a wound and more like a closed chapter. She wrote of waking to mist on the water's surface and of Alex preparing pancakes in a kitchen filled with laughter instead of tension. She described the way his quiet steadiness soothed her, how she learned to trust affection again when it arrived without strings attached. Next, she sketched Lily's arc. After that first tentative meeting in the park, the sisters began to rebuild a friendship based on honest conversation and shared creativity. Emma pictured Lily inviting her back to the pottery studio to paint side by side, hands covered in clay, warm light on their faces, the sound of wheels spinning softly beneath their palms. In her mind's eye, the two finished a large vase together as a symbol of rebuilt trust, imperfect but whole. As Emma spent the morning writing, her phone buzzed with an email from David, the producer. He had reviewed her latest script draft and suggested tightening the closing narration to emphasize the theme of self-discovery. Emma considered his notes, then replied with gratitude and a few minor adjustments of her own. Managing this creative collaboration reminded her that trusting others could be safe when boundaries were clear. By midday, Emma met Alex at the renovated room that now served as her writing studio. The soft gray walls were dotted with watercolor sketches and inspirational quotes in Lily's handwriting. Emma greeted him, and they reviewed his latest photographs, a series capturing the city at dawn, when empty streets felt like a blank canvas. They discussed how best to intersperse his images with her narration in the final video to create an emotional rhythm that echoed the peaks and valleys of her journey. As they worked, Emma felt her confidence grow. She realized that creativity and courage were intertwined. Every time she faced a difficult scene, whether on camera or on paper, she deepened her understanding of trust and resilience. That evening, Emma prepared a simple dinner of roasted vegetables and grilled fish. As she chopped garlic, she reflected on how domestic routines, once reminders of what she had lost, had become soothing rituals that grounded her in a new sense of self-care. She poured herself a glass of white wine and settled at her dining table, where Lily's empty chair no longer whispered of betrayal, but of an open seat waiting for genuine connection. With the meal still warm, Emma pressed send on a message to Lily. "I had us over tomorrow night. Pasta and pottery, your idea. Let me know if you're free." She hesitated, then added, "I've missed you." Lily's reply came swiftly, "I'll be there." "I'd love that." Relief washed over Emma. This small exchange felt monumental, a testament to how far they had both come. She closed her laptop and sat back, savoring the quiet satisfaction of taking initiative in her own life. The next day, the sisters spent hours side by side in Lily's studio. Emma spread out paints and brushes across a long table, while Lily worked the wheel. They shared stories of past summers, of small triumphs and disappointments, and of the day when betrayal had broken them both. The conversation was tender and honest, marked by tears and laughter in equal measure. At the end of the afternoon, they co-created a pair of matching bowls, Emma's painted with abstract flowers and watercolors, Lily's molded in clay with delicate carvings. Together, they agreed to exchange them as symbols of renewed sisterhood. Back at home, Emma placed her bowl on the mantel and saw how beauty could emerge from imperfection. She felt an ache of gratitude for this second chance. Meanwhile, her work on the documentary neared completion. She recorded her final voiceover lines, weaving in reflections that balanced vulnerability and authority, how heartbreak had both shattered and freed her, how she learned that true strength lay not in denying pain, but in acknowledging it fully. After sending the audio files to David, she received his note, "This is powerful, your voice carries authenticity." The edit will do it justice." As Emma reviewed the last rough cut on her living room television, she recognized herself on screen, a woman standing by the riverbank, releasing a white balloon into the sky, the camera lingering on her face as she exhaled. Then scenes of her typing at her desk, of Alex photographing sunlit streets, of Lily's hands shaping clay. The final frame held her close up, a quiet smile on her lips. She pressed pause and felt tears in her eyes, a different kind of release than before, one of acceptance. On Friday evening, Emma joined Alex at a gallery opening featuring his latest prints. The room pulsed with conversation and light, and Emma introduced herself as the narrator behind the new documentary. Strangers congratulated her, sharing how her story had given them permission to speak their own truths. Emma smiled, feeling a warm glow of community. Later, as they walked home beneath street lamps, Alex slipped his hand into hers. She looked at him, heart steady, and intertwined their fingers. "Thank you," she said, "for everything." He squeezed her hand gently. "Thank you for trusting me." That night, Emma slept deeply, dreaming of possibilities still unfolding. She awoke the next morning to birdsong outside her window and a sense of quiet optimism. The future remained unwritten, an empty page inviting her next chapter, but for the first time, Emma was not afraid to pick up her pen. Emma awoke to the gentle hum of late summer birdsong drifting through her open window. The morning air was warm, carrying hints of jasmine from the courtyard below. As she stretched and slid out of bed, she felt a sense of anticipation settle over her. Today was the day her documentary would premiere on the production company's platform, and she would see her journey reach its first real audience. After a quick breakfast of yogurt and fresh berries, she dressed in a simple yet elegant ensemble, a navy linen blouse paired with tailored white trousers. This was not a day for hiding. It was a day for standing in the full light of her story. She gathered a small tote containing her laptop, a printed copy of her script, and Lily's ceramic bowl. She intended to bring it as a symbol of renewal when she spoke at the live Q&A following the premiere. The screening took place in a modest but stylish screening room in Soho. Emma arrived early, heart fluttering as she signed in at the reception desk. The room filled quickly with an audience of curious viewers, freelance writers, documentary enthusiasts, friends she had invited, and even a few strangers who had noticed the event on social media. Alex stood in the back row, camera in hand, offering Emma an encouraging nod. Lily sat beside him, her face pale but resolute, her hands folded around the ceramic bowl Emma had placed on her lap. When the lights dimmed and the projector flickered to life, Emma felt a tremor of excitement. The film opened with a shot of the Hudson River at dawn, mist swirling above the water. Her voice emerged from the speakers, calm, reflective, carrying the weight of her revelation. Scenes of her brownstone intercut with flashbacks, Emma discovering the message on Michael's phone, the confrontation at dinner, Lily's clay sculpture, wove together in a mosaic of betrayal and rebuilding. The documentary moved through stages of shock, separation, creative rebirth, and reconciliation, culminating in the release of the white balloon and the final montage of shared moments with Alex and Lily. As the closing credits rolled, the room remained silent for a heartbeat longer than felt natural. Then applause broke out, soft at first, then building into sustained clapping. Emma sat motionless, tears slipping down her cheeks. She realized that this was not just applause for her pain, but for her courage to transform that pain into art. When the lights rose, Emma rose as well. She stepped onto the small stage beside David, the producer, and addressed the audience. "This film began as a deeply personal story," she said, voice steady. "It's the story of how I discovered betrayal in my own home and how I chose to rebuild my life, to rediscover trust, creativity, and love. I want to thank everyone involved, David and his team, Alex for capturing beauty in unexpected places, and especially my sister, Lily, whose willingness to confront her mistakes showed me that forgiveness is possible." She held up Lily's ceramic bowl. "This piece reminds me that while our relationships may crack, we can mend them with honesty and care. Thank you for believing in me, and may you all find the strength in your own stories to create something new." The audience responded with renewed applause and scattered thank you calls. Afterward, during the Q&A, Emma fielded questions about her process, how she managed the emotional upheaval, why she chose to share so vulnerably, and what advice she had for others facing similar pain. She spoke candidly about therapy, the importance of supportive friends, and the power of pursuing creative outlets. Later that evening, as the crowd dispersed, Emma stepped outside into the cool night air. Alex joined her, slipping his arm around her waist. "You were incredible," he whispered. Emma leaned into him. "I couldn't have done it without you." Lily emerged from the screening room holding the ceramic bowl wrapped in a soft cloth. Emma greeted her with a gentle hug. "I'm proud of you," Lily said. "Thank you." They stood together under the city lights, three women bound by a story that had begun in betrayal and grown into something beautiful. Emma realized that her life no longer followed a timeline of pain and recovery, but had become a tapestry of interwoven threads, each moment, each choice, adding depth and color. In the days that followed, Emma's video gained traction online. Comments poured in from people around the world who resonated with her honesty and found hope in her resilience. Invitations for interviews and speaking engagements arrived, but Emma chose selectively, prioritizing projects aligned with her mission to empower others through storytelling. At home, Emma walked through the brownstone, pausing in each room to take in how it had evolved. The study where she had first heard the voices was now her office, filled with light and new artwork, photographs of misty mornings, watercolor sketches, and Lily's pottery displayed on floating shelves. The living room hosted weekly screenings for her writing workshop students, where she nurtured emerging storytellers. And in her bedroom, she placed a small white balloon sculpted in glass by Alex, symbolizing release and renewal. One morning, as Emma prepared for a radio interview about creative healing, she glanced at her reflection in the mirror. The woman looking back was composed, authentic, and unafraid. She touched the glass gently and whispered, "Thank you for telling the truth." Later that day, she received a message from Michael, a request to meet and talk, a note expressing regret and a desire for closure. Emma considered the message. She recognized that her story belonged to her now, not to Michael or to anyone who had wronged her. She drafted a brief reply, "I appreciate your words. I have moved forward with my life. I wish you well." She sent it and felt no regret. The chapter with Michael was closed, but her narrative continued in new directions through her work, her relationships, and her ongoing exploration of human strength. As summer turned to autumn, Emma launched a new series on her channel, interviews with people who had faced betrayal of different kinds, friends, colleagues, partners, and had used storytelling to reclaim their lives. With each episode, she amplified voices that needed to be heard, building a community founded on empathy and authenticity. In this way, Emma's own journey, once marked by heartbreak and disillusionment, blossomed into a catalyst for healing in others. The betrayal she had endured became the soil from which resilience grew, and her life, once confined by secrets, became an open book, inviting readers and viewers to join her in the ongoing adventure of truth and renewal. And so, with her pen poised over the blank page of tomorrow, Emma embraced the knowledge that while the past cannot be rewritten, the future can be authored with courage, creativity, and compassion.